We're part of a nation that on the greatest night of Jewish education, when we give over our Masorah, we instruct our children to question us, to question every single thing that we do, to question how we're sitting, to question what we're eating, how we set the table. If you ask me, I'll tell them the story. If you ask me a question, shut up, kid, I'm talking. Our Masorah is that if you have the truth, we're not afraid of questions. That's why a Jew answers a question with a question. It's in our mind, you don't realize. Gentiles don't have this. If anybody comes up to you and you say, you're going to speak by a bar mitzvah, speak by a sheva brachas, right? What's the first thing you do? You look, okay, what's the question? I'm going to start with the question. Because that's how a Jew makes a speech. That's how we think. Because if we have the truth, I'm not an expert in anything. I went through my own personal journey. And I asked questions. And then I had more questions because the answers led me to more. That's great. Don't trust anybody. Listen, ask your own questions, do your own research, ask around, and reach your conclusions. We have the truth. We're not afraid. And if it's not true, we're not interested. I'm out the door behind you. We're here because we believe it's right. Okay, let's get to it. So if I do my job right here, and I share with you from my personal journey, you're going to end up with, among other questions, a question of, well, if it's such a good proof, if it's so clear, there's so much, how come so many Jews aren't religious? How come nobody else knows this? So, for anybody here who's ever done a 1,000-piece puzzle, yeah? Okay, so you don't have a PlayStation? Sorry. Okay, so if you've ever done a 1,000-piece puzzle, you do, people, they do the frame first, they start building, you're doing the tree. You get it all done, there's one piece you can't find it. You did all the greens, you're looking in the box. How long are you going to look till you find the piece that you're missing? That depends. That depends on whether or not you have Dovi. No, not a Dovi here. Dovi Sharfer. He's my grandson. See, if you have Dovi Sharfer, there is a solid possibility that he ate it. Or he threw it in the fish tank. Which he actually threw half the food in the fish tank a couple weeks ago. It's still green. I'm still working on it. Taking suggestions, by the way. You're not going to look for it. Because you don't know it's there. I'll do better. You go to the store, you buy the 1,000-piece puzzle, everybody in the store says, by the way, these puzzles are missing pieces. Everybody tells you that. So you're going to keep looking for an answer? There's nothing to look for. A standard Jew, if you ask him, how come you're not religious? Why don't you believe? So he's going to tell you something like this. Yeah, it's true, I never bothered exploring my Jewish roots for evidence of its authenticity. Why should I? Who in the world believes that Judaism is true? A small group of religious fanatics. Judaism is just like any other religion. I mean, there's no reason to believe that God wrote the Torah and gave it to the Jewish people. Certainly not more than any other religion story. So why should I think the Torah is talking to me here and now? Right? I'm going to break that down into points here. Only religious Jews believe Judaism is true. Judaism is the same as all other religions. There's no basis for believing God wrote the Torah and gave it to the Jewish people. 3, that's right. And the Torah is not talking to me here and now. Okay, we're going to come back to those at the end. Keep track. Good? Okay. Whoa. Who's here or has heard of Boko Haram? I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Not that it really matters. Yeah. So, last month, there was an attack in Nigeria. Killed 4 people, went into a village, abducted 24 other people. A whole village was knocked down, 110 buildings, 73 houses, 33 shops. Now, I don't know why they wrote this. And as serious as this is, it's quite funny. All the things were burnt down, including 8 vehicles and 3 tricycles. It's what it says. I'm not making this up. Yes, those evil people killed 4 people, abducted 24, and they burnt 3 tricycles. Why'd they do it? It's happening all over the world. It's weird, when you hear news, what's happening here, that's the main news in the world. There are terror attacks every day all over the world. And everybody believes they're right. They believe they're going to heaven. They're willing to give their lives for it. So how can you know? If there's something called reward and punishment, the truth needs to be discernible. Because if it's not clear, if I can't find it, so then it's just, I got it, from my environment, and everybody said it, and they all shook their heads a lot, and he got it from his. And the guy singing the song over here, all right? He thinks he's right too. Is it just how much effort I'm willing to put in? How much I really believe in something? So then how can you have reward and punishment if the truth isn't able to be found by somebody looking for it? So, if I could give you right now a personal note that I could show you was from Hashem, that would be amazing. We would be done here. Well, think about it. It would kind of ruin my speech. It'd be over. But that would be great. But we'll do the best we can. We're not looking for 100% proof, as Rabbi Lev said yesterday. So what are we looking for? No, better. We're looking for a level of proof that you use for anything else in your life. Because nobody lives by 100% proof in anything. Not when you buy a car, not when you decide who's going to be your girlfriend, assuming she wants to be with you. Right? Maybe she's an alien. Maybe, an alien took over her body. She's out to get you. Maybe. It's possible. Right? How do you get into your car and drive? Maybe there's a bomb under it. If I'm triggering anybody with anxiety, I'm sorry. Right? We don't live by 100% proof. We live by a level of, I have enough information that I'm comfortable to make a decision. And we do that now. The bigger the decision, the more proof we want. So a simple decision, right, of whether or not it's raining outside, am I going to trust the guy who tells me it is or it's not? Okay, I'll trust it. In the worst case scenario, I don't have to go and do any major investigation. I'll find out in a minute he's lying to me, he's pulling up fast. Fine, okay, great. Right? Decision of what job should I get? It's a good job, this guy a good boss, I'll do some more research. Rate my professor with hotness. You've seen this? The Rate My Professor sites? Yeah. Okay, I'm glad I'm not on there. Right? You do your research. Buying a car. There's no 100% proof. There's nothing that you do in life that you demand 100% proof for. Even the really important things. Right? As Rabbi Lev said yesterday, who's your, are you your parents' children? How do you know? Well, I know. I look like them. I act like them. There's a picture of me. Come on. Right? All of that can be faked. But you live by it unless you have something to question it. We're looking for a level of proof that it is good enough for us to hold that it's knowledge, like we do in anything else, important. But it has to be knowledge. We're not talking about faith. Via data. You should know. Okay? That's what we're looking for. To borrow a term, lahavdil, we'll call it beyond the reasonable doubt. How's that? We'll call for that. We kill people based on that. I think that should be good enough. Not necessarily that system gets it right, but we'll go with that. Okay. Now you should know the stuff I'm about to share with you I've gotten from, almost none of it is my own personal. I put it all together. It's come from people like Rabbi Mechanic, Rabbi Victor Miller, and it's come from you guys over the years, having discussions, starting up, debating, putting it together, until it turned into a class. What are we trying to prove? Let's get straight what we're trying to do. I'm going to bring a lot of things that are not the proof. The proof's going to be at the end. What are we trying to prove? One thing. Is there a God? Did he give us the Torah? That's it. Right? You can do all sorts of other things. But if there's a God and he gave us the Torah, we're done. Meaning, I could sit here, we could talk about the science aspect. You can go into, let's say, how do you know the world, did it happen by itself? That's easy. It's not, do your own research. Anybody who does a little bit DNA, triple-coded, the message that's on there, full message to the body that starts at a different place in the code. Anybody go look in Permission to Believe, look in the back there, you see some of the appendixes there. The random mutations, the theory that science puts out, there's not enough time for it. One of the scientists years ago, when he discovered that there's not enough time for random mutations to happen, he went and he put out, as a joke, he put out a theory, it was Francis and Crick, put out a theory, the seeding theory. That must be aliens came and put DNA code into the muck, and that's how he came. That's how but he didn't do it seriously. He did it to show that there's simply not enough time, trillions of years off, right? And people said, "Oh, that's a good theory," and they accepted it, right? But I don't need to do that, because if we prove that the Rebbeinu Shalom, if we can show beyond a reasonable doubt that God gave us the Torah, so everything else is academic. You have a question about the Holocaust? You have a question about what happened to you yesterday? That's a question you should pursue. It's a great question. But if you know that Hashem gave us the Torah, right? So then it's a question you need to answer to. But it's not a question of whether or not Judaism is true. What else are we going to get from it? If God wrote the Torah, so then Torah Sheba'al Peh is true. How do I know that? Anybody here wear green tefillin? Purple? Why not? You never tried purple tefillin? People have all different talesim. Anyone seen a talis with the logo of their football team on it? Oh, I'm going to make a lot of money. Guys, keep that one to yourself. Forget that. But you can do that with a talis, right? But your tefillin. How come you've never seen purple tefillin? All the Torah says is a couple psukim, put on phylacteries. It's not even sure how to read the word, what it means. Where are all the laws of what they are? That's the oral tradition that had to have come with it. There are so many, Shabbos. If you don't rest on Shabbos, you do a malacha, we're going to kill you. Okay, what's a malacha? I'm not telling. Oh, well, so how do I know? Whatever you decide. Okay, but if I do it and you decide that I did a malacha, you're going to kill me. That's right. What? It makes no sense. I'm not talking about machloksim that happened 1,000 years later. I'm not discussing gezeros, decrees of the rabbis later. But the explanation, the Torah makes no sense without it. The Christians, they believe the Torah is literal. They have a English translation of a Latin translation of a Greek translation of our Bible that wasn't meant to be literal in the first place. So they see an eye for an eye, they have a problem. We have the rabbis to explain. It means that's what should happen to you, but it means money. Okay. What else are we going to know if this is right? Well, we know there's no mistakes here. We're talking about a God that presents himself as a good God that knows the future. Now, let me digress for a second. We're only going to entertain two options here. Only two options. If you want, there's 1,000 more. Option one, I'm going to say chas v'shalom once. The Torah was written by man or men. Got it? That's option one. Over 1,000 years, I don't care. One guy, I don't care. It was written by somebody. Good. Option two is, it was God. All-powerful, good, all-seeing God. You want to make another in-between option? Some powerful being that's a liar? Recognize this. If you're going to go with that it's a powerful, that it's a God, but he's not so good, or he doesn't know the future, he's not involved in all our days, he doesn't love the Jewish people, he didn't instill in the rabbis the power to say what halacha is. So then he's a liar too. You want to have a Torah, there's a God who gave us the Torah, but he's a liar. Okay, we can talk about that. Right? But God presents himself, recognize this, in the Torah, he presents himself as a good, all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful God who knows what's going to be in the future. Right? Okay. Those are the two options. Now, if we can show that the option of a man writing it beyond a reasonable doubt doesn't make any sense, then what's left is God wrote the Torah. Now you're going to have a lot of questions on that. Great. Run them down. Okay? This is what we call a negative proof. All the proofs that you're going to hear are going to be negative proofs. We'll give you a couple examples soon. One last thing. If a guy wrote it and it's not true, he's an evil guy. He's getting us to do all this stuff and it never happened to us. We're supposed to believe that it did. He's just a liar. He's a terrible person. Right? You recognize this. The people, they look at us. If you don't believe, if you're a good person and you think that giving of the Torah never happened, we're a bunch of nuts. What we do to our children, what we do to ourselves, makes no sense. Right? You got to save the religious Jews from themselves, if it's not true. Okay. Next prerequisite. This is not the proof. I keep saying that. We'll get there though. How old is the Torah? How old is the Torah? When I say Torah, the text of what we have. Chamisha Chumshei Torah. What? Well, how can you prove that? He's called Ezra HaSofer to get the bad rap. Well, he must have written it, right? Yeah? How old? How old can you make it?
974 generations before the creation.
You're telling me from the book proving the book. Any evidence? I want to know from what we know, what we can prove right now, right here. How old is the text of Chamisha Chumshei Torah? You've heard this speech. Get your hand down. I love you, Josh. Yeah? So let's go back. The oldest Torah scroll is about 800 years old, verified. Someplace in Italy, in some Italian library. You can look it up. It's at the University of Bologna. Bologna, that's how you pronounce it. You skip the G?
Bologna.
It's not Bologna. How do you say it? Bologna? Anybody been there? Really? Cool. Yeah. So they have there, it's the oldest, they say it's about 800 years old. Okay, great. We're back 800 years.
Dead Sea Scrolls aren't into...
Dead Sea Scrolls, you got fragments. You can go back. We can do that, but I'm going to do the same thing a little bit better. Right? They have pieces. What they have in the Dead Sea Scroll matches what we have, especially a lot of Vayikra, different pieces. I want the whole thing together. So, everyone's heard of Septuagint, right? Sure. Greeks translate the Bible into Latin. Chamisha Chumshei Torah into Latin. That's where the King James Bible that you'll find everywhere is eventually goes back to that. When does that occur? Well, being that it's Greek, come on. Right? Around 2,000 years ago. We'll go with that. Right? 3rd century BC, according to 2,000 years ago. That's good. A little more. Okay, now, why does it matter to us? So recognize this. You now have an exact copy. Okay, a word changed, a word not, but as far as the stories, almost exact. Some grammar changes in the hands of the Gentiles 2,300 years ago. Now let's say somebody wanted to make a change to it 1,900 years ago. They want to change a story. They want to add a prophecy. Right? Could they do it? Well, let's say it's a close-knit group of Jews. Maybe we can. Maybe we can put it together then. But then we'd have to go into every place where they have the Latin version or the Greek version and change it too. They're never going to let us. So we are now standing with the Chamisha Chumshei Torah. We are standing with a Chamisha Chumshei Torah 2,000 years ago because we couldn't go anyplace else and change it. We have a full text. Got it? Right? Let's go back a little further. This one's from Rav Miller Zatzal, but it's amazing. The more and more I look into it, it's amazing. You heard of Samaritans? Shomronim? What we used to call the Karaites? Sadukim? Right? People who only believe in Torah Shebeksav. We have a group. They have the Shomronim. Again, Shomronim still exist now, some of them. They have a tradition that goes way, way back. Where they got it from which group? Is it actually them? Did they get it from a different group? But they have a group from a break-off group from the Jews in the time of Joshua. That's what they say. And the reason we believe it is because their Old Testament consists of Chamisha Chumshei Torah. They changed a few places here and there where it says you don't go to the base of Mikdash, you go to their mountain. But otherwise, everything's exactly the same. Some grammar, a letter here and there. Look it up. Don't trust me. And of the prophets, they have a garbled version of Sefer Joshua, Yoshua. First one. All the rest they don't have. Whoever that group was, they break off in the times of Joshua. And at that point, they reject the rabbis. They reject the standard Jewish tradition. And if any of us would go and want to change or write something new in the Torah, right? Have you ever heard the theory, the Torah is written over millennia and put together, the first writing, the second writing, and this writer, and A, B, and C, right? You're standing now with Joshua. Within 100 years of us getting the Torah at Har Sinai, according to the story, with a complete 5 books of Moses. 3,000 years ago. Because they would never let us take our version and put it there if it develops later. Anything we want to put in. Okay, got it? So we have now, if you want to just do the Septuagint, it's good enough for my speech. Right? We have a book that's thousands of years old. Fine. Let's give a couple examples now of negative proofs. This is not the proof. But people use these as proofs. And I'm not saying they're not. They're great. Right? Okay. Guy writes the Torah. Again, we're going with the option. 2 options. Man or God. Man or man, God. Man writes the Torah. And he writes in the Torah, he gives it to the Jews. He says, you got to keep all these mitzvahs. Okay? One of the mitzvahs is, what we're doing this year now is Shemitah. Okay, what does the pasuk tell me in Shemitah in Parshas Ki Sisa? That if somebody's scared, and he says, what am I going to eat? What does he get? Triple crop. Well, the higher people, they're able to, their stuff less. But this guy who's scared, he gets a triple crop. He's good for this year, next year, till the next year's crops grow. What's going to happen the first time they have Shemitah, they keep it, and nothing extra grows in the 6th year? It's false. It's done. A human being would not have put that into the Torah. Remember, we know this is an old Torah. They're keeping this in the beginning, in Israel. It doesn't make sense. He wouldn't do it. Well, if a human being wouldn't have done it, what are we left with? Right? Let's do one more.
You could say that, if there's no triple crop, so then some rabbi will say that's because you didn't really keep it properly.
Except for the fact that the Torah explicitly there's no asterisk there. It says it. Yeah, but why would he write that? Why put yourself, if he knows he can't control it? Which means you're going to have a large percentage of people expecting that. Why put yourself in that you have to answer? Don't even write it. A human being doesn't, if he controls it, so I'll deal with the exception, he'll explain. But why would he write it? Why would he get something that he knows he's going to have to get out of? Don't write it and don't get out of it. the way you get people to follow along in any religion is don't promise them anything in this world. All the other world, talk about the next world where you won't be questioned. You're going to put in something that they're going to question you, you're asking for trouble. Get this one, okay? This one's going to be a lot harder, okay? Ola Regel, 3 times a year, everybody come to Jerusalem. Everyone. Okay, we have all these goyim around us. They want to kill us. They want to rob us. No, everybody. Border guards, no exceptions. Oh, what about our neighbors? What about the people? Don't worry. When you go up to Yerushalayim, they're not going to want your land. They're not going to be interested in attacking. That sounds beautiful. It's a great thing to promise. Comes the first Shemitah. First Ola Regel. They come. Everyone comes Pesach, and they come home, and their village is burned down. Wives are gone. Family's gone. Everything's gone. And the rabbi's going to say, "Oh, because when you went, you had bad kavanas." Was it?
No, he trusted the women. They're very strict.
Yeah, but that's not what it says. It says they're not going to want. Right? So we're just discussing here, would a human being, thousands of years ago, when he's trying to get people to keep a religion, make such a promise that he knows is out of his hands? It makes absolutely no sense that he would do it. Now, it's amazing that he did and that it was true. But this is not the proof. I'm just giving you an example. It's not the proof. Right? But this is what we mean by a negative proof.
When was the first Ola Regel? Like how much time was in between?
Well, it's interesting because we don't have a base of Mikdash. We're going to the Mishkan. But we're doing it right away, I believe. No? Anybody or Hershey want to help me? When we first come in, they're going to wherever the Mishkan is, correct? Right when we come into Eretz Yisrael. How many, after we conquer, how many years into it? Well, how long does it take for the kibush? What, 14 years?
So he knows he wants to deal with it around the 14 years.
Well, assuming that's when it gets, but yes. Well, you're going to say, technically speaking, you're going to say, he gives the Torah. Before they conquered it, he's giving it to a people already established. Either way, he's going to have to deal with it. The point being, he wouldn't have written it. Because even 14 years later, it creates a problem for him. Because when you promise something you can't control, you're just asking for trouble. Okay, that's not the proof. People go, I have a friend who opened his eyes to the possibility that, hey, we thought this whole thing was foolish. There's a lawyer in Cleveland. This thing, it wasn't, like, oh, I see the Torah is true. But I said, it's not so simple that a man wrote it. Got him to question. Okay. Yeah. Well?
Muhammad said, don't come to Mecca, all of you. little. מוחמד שאמר לא לבוא למכה כולם ביחד, אלא קצת. For that reason.
In contrast to the Jews, when Arabs go on Hajj, they don't go all at the same time.
Because
they shouldn't conquer their land.
They're afraid of Jewish terrorists.
הוא לא יכול להבטיח.
Yeah, because we're going to throw rocks at their cars. That's what we do in Mea Shearim. Okay. Okay. All right. So now, last piece that we need before the actual proof. Okay, Rabbi Leff started. He talked about how Christianity starts. He talks about how Islam starts. I just want to go back a little bit in time, and just in case some of you might have fallen asleep yesterday. I don't know. Rabbi Leff has a story of Christianity starting with Jesus, right? Now he referenced it. I know what he was referring to, but really the story of Christianity, when we talk about origins, it starts with Peter on the way to Damascus having a vision, which only he saw. Soldiers around him kind of felt, sort of the angel or Jesus, or depending on your version, what they saw, how, telling him what Christianity is all about, right? But that's not really the origin story of Christianity. Go up to any Christian and ask them, who's Abraham? Oh, he's a great grandfather. He's in the Bible. Isaac and Jacob, Right? 12 tribes. Yeah, sure, we know them. What about them? Oh, yeah, they were in Egypt. They were slaves there. God saved them with miracles. Oh, and then what? Oh, and then God gathered them in the desert by Har Sinai and gave them the Torah. All of them, yeah, millions, yeah. 600,000 males between the age of 20 and 60, depending on how you do the math, between 2 and 3, and some people have 3.5, 3 million people. Christians, every Christian. Oh, then what happened? Oh, then the Jews sinned and God forsook them. They're no longer the chosen nation. Oh, okay. Did he tell us? No. It says 150 times in the Torah where he's never going to forsake us. Yeah, we know. And God knows the future. Yeah, he does. Oh. But you all believe that the origin story of Judaism is absolutely true. Absolutely. So God said over and over again, he's never going to change. Okay, I got to give you an example here. Okay? Rav Hanan and Rav Bina get up tomorrow morning, and they make an announcement. New announcement. Okay? No one's allowed to, two rules now. No one's allowed to have Instagram accounts. And you have to be by afternoon Seder from beginning to end every single day. No ifs, ands, or buts. We're treating it like night Seder, really. We're going to post a guard. It's going to be, wow. Okay, by the way, what's the punishment? Here's the punishments. Okay? If you're caught with an Instagram account, right, we're going to give you a slap on the wrist. Well, we'll give you a schmooze. Right? You'll have to go, Rav Yoel will talk to you. Right? I'll try and convince you, tell you, come on. Right? Okay. And you're late for second Seder, you miss it, your life is over. You're out, we're going to ruin your shidduch. You're not going to college. That's it. You're going to be working, you're going to be a busboy. That's it. It's the best. You're done. Got it? So we have the rule straight? Right? Instagram account, you break the rule, slap on the wrist. Okay? If you miss second Seder, you're late, your life is over. Got it? And I'm telling you now, we're never, ever going to change the rules. Anybody tells you we changed the rules, they're out of yeshiva. Right? Got it? We're never changing the rules. We're never changing the punishments. Got it? Okay? Okay? Rav Bina and Rav Hanan go back to the office. Rav Bina turns to Rav Hanan. Okay, we're changing the rules. From now on, Instagram account, your life is over. You come late to second Seder, slap on the wrist. Well, what you just said, that's okay. Should we tell? No, I'm not telling anyone. Right? You go and you do it. That's what Christianity says.
What's plastic the tip?
Well, that, in the spiel. That's what Christianity says actually happens, right? Christianity says God gave us the Torah, took us out of Egypt, promised us he's never going to change us. And if anybody says that, anybody tries to change a word of the Torah and says we're not the chosen people forever, kill him. Oh, by the way, then he went to one person and told them, oh, I changed my mind. And if you don't follow this guy and throw everything away that I said, you're all going to eternal hell and damnation. Right? That's how they talk. Right? That's Christianity. But recognize this. Christianity is built on the fact that we got the Torah, that Yetzias Mitzrayim is true. All the miracles. What about Islam? Now Christianity has this all written out, spelled out in the King James Bible. So it's true. Islam doesn't have it word for word, but they also talk about it. The Quran has the Jews leaving Egypt. The Quran talks about us getting the Torah, Har Sinai. They actually literally says in the Quran, it says it the way the Gemara said, the Takti Sahar, we were under the mountain. They do it with Chazal, right? Apparently, there's a shmua out there that Muhammad was a Shabbos goy, so he would hear things by the table, right? So he could put Haman in the Pesach story, which he does. You mix things up a little, right? But if you believe in Islam, you say the Quran's true, you're saying the Jews are the chosen people, and then God changed his mind, right? So recognize this, right? more than half the world is either Christian or Muslims. And they all believe that our story is true. This is not the proof. This is not the proof. Right? But recognize that the only people who don't believe in the origin story of Judaism are non-religious Jews. Everybody else does. I guess it's a different commitment, right? Okay. All other religions, you're going to get the same thing. Starter stories, as Rabbi Leff explained, the origin of when their change takes place, or however they started, is always without witnesses. Okay. One thing is for sure not. Even if you put a few witnesses, the swooning women, right? You definitely don't have a nation. In the origin story. Let's say our story is false. Chas v'shalom. But it's false. The guy wrote it up. We made up a story. Somehow we believe our origin story that there was a nation of a couple million people. Great. Thousands of religions out there. None of them have a story of a nation being saved from inside. Remember, you know, you can have on the internet, you'll find different people say, oh, the 10 plagues I found over here and over there. There were locusts here, and then there was a flood here. The Torah's version is they were prophesied before they happened. This is going to happen in 2 days. This is going to happen in a week. This is when it's going to stop. And it's happening inside of another nation, which means there's another nation to witness it. It's not happening out when nobody can see it. So we have all these miracles happening, and then we have God directly talking to us from fire, no image, by our Sinai. And we all lived. Torah is very clear about that point. An entire nation hearing, and we walk away. It's not some prophet 1,000 years later saying, oh, this happened, and then they all died. We live to talk about, to tell our children. And all these mitzvahs that are from that moment on, that are about remembering those times. And then you can get into all the different types of proofs of, like Rabbi Leff's, you go into this great on simpletoremember.com. Simpletoremember.com. Lawrence Kellerman has a great class there. There's a couple books from him downstairs where it goes into the study of comparative religions, how you can't get a group of people to believe something happened to them or their ancestors that didn't happen to them. All the cults, all the religions, thousands of them, are all about unverifiable claims. Something happened to me, but it's not about you, it's not about your grandparents. Why didn't they tell me? Great class, you should listen to it. Okay, so we have all these religions, they all start the same way. Certainly not to a nation, very few witnesses. Okay, so now, is there any nation anywhere? Maybe I'm missing one. Maybe there is some nation. Some Indian nation, somewhere that says things like this happened to them. Okay? So a few years ago, I went and I put up a crowdsourcing website. You guys can look it up later. TorahChallenge.com. And basically, I put this challenge out there. So if anybody could find me a nation with a similar story to us, I'm going to give a cash prize to. Right? 0 answers, 0 tries. I list exactly what it is, what I'm looking for. It's been up for a few years. Has all the lists of all the thousands of people that have seen the site. Not a single one, just in case I miss one. Somebody likes money, right? Not a one, right? In case I miss something. Okay. So now, have you guys ever heard of one? Think. Ask the question yourselves. Have you ever heard of a nation claiming anything similar to a nation? Claiming anything similar to our story of Yetzias Mitzrayim or our Sinai? Just think. You've heard. Go ahead.
There were soldiers, thousands of them, they all died.
More than that, how do you know about it? One guy told it years later.
One guy said that.
One guy says, right. That's the whole point. The Torah is very clear. And lived. Right? Our story is, God spoke to us, and the entire nation then lived afterwards. There is that story. Lawrence Kellerman likes to end the speech with it. That there was an Indian guy. It's one of the religions says, yeah, we have a tradition. There was a whole big group of soldiers, that God spoke to them, and then they all died. And how do we know one guy said it? Right? which has nothing to do with, a nation had the revelation and walked away to pass it on to their children, to the next generations. Right? Not one guy saying it happened.
What's this soldier's name?
Listen to the Lawrence Coleman thing. There's one religion that holds that God spoke to a large group of people before they resurrected them, and then they all died. And we only know about this because one guy told them years later. Survivor or prophet, I don't know. But, it's interesting the Torah spells it out when it says, that what happened, everybody lived through it. Okay. Good. Anybody else have one? Ask the question. No? Look it up later. Don't trust me. Look it up later. I had one guy last year, Baruch Hashem, he came around, says, I found one. Says, what? There's a tribe, there's a nation in South America, they believe that nature's always talking to them. The trees are always talking to them. See? Mass revelation. Yeah. Okay. Now we're ready. Here's the point. No other nation, no other guy figured out how to get a group of people to believe this lie. Remember, if man wrote it, it's all a lie. It never occurred. Maybe there's some legend, but there never was these miraculous things of God speaking. There's no in between. He's a liar. And he gets a group of people to believe that all these miraculous things happened to them or to their ancestors. And for somehow they forgot it, even though the Torah says they'll never forget it. How did he do it? I don't care. Shrooms. Yeah? I can believe a lot of things in shrooms. All right? He did it. Technology. He went back in time. He figured out. Now we have thousands of religions. All of them want them to believe their lie. Their lie of the origin of how, their point of revelation where God interacted with them. All of them, they can't get a nation there. They can get a couple people there at most. Almost all of them are one person. Few which have a couple witnesses. No one has a nation except for us. And the two biggest religions, most of the people alive today, they do have a story with the nation, ours. They based their entire religion that it happened to us, and then God changed his mind, even though he said he wouldn't. And for themselves, no nation, no witnesses. Why didn't they do it? Okay, it's hard to get, but this guy figured it out. He did it. Wonderful. Put up speakers, a lot of clouds, hallucinogenics, LSD, he got it. Okay. One thing I know about this guy. One thing that I know. Would this guy stake the entire credibility of his religion on a prediction, statement of fact, that no one else is ever going to pull off the lie that he knows is possible? Would this person do that? Is it logical that a human being, the one guy who knows that you can get people to believe a mass lie, is the only one that pulled off, so he knows it can be done? Would he ever say, would it be normal, would it be logical for him to say, if anybody ever in all of history, from now, tomorrow, 2,000 years from now, 3,000 years, anybody ever claims that they had revelation or miracles direct from God to a whole nation, my religion is false? He would never do that. Makes no sense. Because he's the one guy that knows you can do it. So, remember the 4 points we started with? Let's see if we got through them all. Only religious Jews believe Judaism is true. Is that true? What? Most of the world believes the origin story of Judaism is true. Not that that's a proof. And if they didn't, it wouldn't matter. We're just getting rid of that blocker. Is Judaism the same as all other religions? Right? What we're left with is there a basis for believing God wrote the Torah? and gave to the Jewish people, and is God talking to me here and now? So remember in the beginning I said, wouldn't it be nice if I can give you a note or message from God? Pass these out. Wait, I need one. Leave me one. Pass them out. Spread them out. This is Dvarim, Perek Daled. You will find this in every Chumash. You will find this in the King James Bible. You'll find it in the Samaritan's Bible. You'll find it in the Septuagint thousands of years ago. This is a prophecy made thousands of years ago about you. And it says here, and I'm paraphrasing, but you can look in the English. I have the whole thing there so you can see the context. At the end of days, you're going to be kicked out of Israel. You're going to be spread out over the world. And you're going to be looking for strength. And if you're honest, you'll be able to find the strength that you need. All you need to do is ask one question. Has there ever been a nation in all of history, anywhere in the world, that claims what happened to the Jews happened to them? The writer of the Torah makes a challenge 3,000 years ago that you will never be able to find a nation that claims anything similar to the prophesied miracles of a nation being saved from within a nation. You will never find a story of a nation claiming mass revelation that they walk away from and give over to their children, where God spoke to the entire nation. The writer of the Torah, this is the only place, there's lots of proofs and they're all great. This is the place in the Torah where it says this is going to give you strength. Ask the simple question. Is there another nation? He's writing this 3,000 years ago. If he's a man, if he's a liar, he's the one guy that knows that you could pull this off. Someone else will do the same thing he did tomorrow. Why would he put this here? It makes no sense. It's unbelievable. It's not credible that a human being would write when he wants people to believe a religion that my religion is false if anybody else pulls off what I just did that I know is possible. He's the one that knows he could do it. Leave it at that. Why write that here? Says the Torah. When you ask that question and you look over all of history, world history, and look all over the world, check it up now, and you find that it's totally unique, that will give you strength. And the Torah continues. Atar reis ladaras. Now you can know Hashem hu Elokim, ein od milvado. And from that can bring you to do tshuva. That's the prediction. The Torah is predicting that you will be here today in this room and you will ask the question, are there any other nations with a similar story to ours? And when you find the answer is no, it's going to give you strength. So there's only one thing left from this prediction we need to know. And that is, it says, if you're honest and you're really looking for the truth, this will give you strength, not just to accept it from me, not to explore it. Don't take my word for it. This will give you strength to get on the path to do it right. So the only real question left is, are you honestly seeking the truth?